Morning, everyone. How are we on this glorious day? It's lovely and sunny outside, isn't it? So hopefully I'm going to give you some insight into what will be the role of mobile in the future of effective advertising. But before I do that, I'd like you to get your mobiles out, if you haven't got them out already. Unlock them and swap with the person next to you. Oh, that's interesting, isn't it? How many of you are willing to do that? And therein lies the power of the mobile phone. Obviously, hand them back now because we don't want to show you photos, do you? But it's a demonstration of just how personal your mobile phone device is, and we're going to touch upon that going through the rest. By the way, how did you get on with the emergency alarm on Sunday? I guess if you're on 3, you might have struggled with that. But if there are any conspiracy theorists in the room, I took all the COVID vaccines and I'm still alive. And gladly all of you are as well. So it's the interesting effectiveness of the mobile, the role that it's going to play going forward. And to look into the future, sometimes it's good to learn from the past. I've just taken this quote from Mike Follett of Lumen, who was one of the columnists for MediaTel, and there was, I'm sure you saw that a lot of columnists were asked for their opinions, their contributions on what the future of brands will involve. And this is Mike's comment. Ads in the future will have more in common with ads in the past than the ads we have today. And probably some of you looking at me and thinking, how am I qualified to talk about the future when I probably have more of my past behind me than I do my future ahead of me? But I take inspiration from Mike's comment that I can learn from my past experiences of over 25 years in the media industry, this really exciting, vibrant industry. And man, what changes we've seen in those 25 years. When I started out in media, there were 4 TV channels. It was even before Channel 5 was released. And the most fragmented media was print. You can remember wrestling with a broadsheet on a tube train in rush hour. I always just admire anyone who could get their telegraph, fold it and read it properly whilst holding on a tube train. And we've seen significant changes as well. We've seen balance of power change as well as a consequence of the transformation in media that we've seen in the digital transformation. We've seen how in the balance of power in the media ecosystem, that creative agencies in my time when I started out sat at the table with brands. They probably had the brand's ear more than the media agency. But now, as a consequence of the fragmentation of the media landscape, it's probably now media agencies who have just as much time, if not more time, with brands. And what's interesting in that balance of power as well is just how your customers, consumers of media, how that balance of power has changed. How changing from passive audiences to much proactive audiences. And whilst media owners in the past were curators of content, now it's us. Now it's your customers, your consumers, who are the curators of their own content. A lot of that down to the digital transformation that we've seen. Good to see I'm now the second oldest man in the room. And this is what mobile phones look like in my day when they started out. So there has been this balance of power, this shift of power. But what does that mean? And what can we glean from that going forward? We've all heard about AI, and a lot of these, and again, this balance of power has occurred due to the effectiveness of technology. Technology has enabled these startling changes in how we consume media to occur. And we talked about AI now. AI is its role within advertising. I read an interesting quote from somebody, one of the big 5 media agencies, who said, we're using AI to simulate audiences for testing different brand ad formats. And they said, the quote was, it's performing good enough. Is good enough good enough? I'll leave that thought with you. But fundamentally, we're not talking to automatons. It's human beings who will continue to be your customers, will continue to buy from you. So it's all about how do we effectively communicate, despite the technology, increasing technology, how do we communicate with your customers? So we're going to unpack that a little bit more and then try and understand how they consume media and how from that we can get some pointers as to what the future may look like. So I'm sure some of you are familiar with this. This is the latest IPA touchpoint research that came out. And the main point of this graph is to show how they looked at media consumption pre-COVID, during COVID, and post. And I'm most interested in where we are now, most recent research, and particularly the red. It's basically saying that for 18 to 34-year-olds, nearly 60% of their media is consumed on their mobile device. That's interesting. Why? Because in 10 years' time, these will be the 25 to 45-year-olds, probably the most affluent, probably the most valuable customers that you have. And they will continue to use mobile device as their key source. So that's what they use consuming media. How effective are we at advertising to them, and what would the future of mobile potentially look like? The smartphone hasn't really changed that much in the time it's been around. And in another part of our business at Affinity, we work with some of the most popular Android OEMs. We work directly with Samsung, we work with Oppo, Xiaomi, Vivo. And unfortunately, they wouldn't tell us what their thoughts were on the forecast of the future of mobile. But maybe it's just going to be accessories to extend the display that we have. We've seen that with the clamshell mobile phone. So mobile device will probably be similar. But how effective are we at the moment? How can we learn from effectiveness of advertising? This was taken from Amplified Intelligence at Cannes last year, where their CEO was talking into how they are experts, or one of the experts, in raising this issue of attention as a measure of advertising effectiveness. And unfortunately, this graph is suggesting that we're not being particularly successful in achieving attention and engagement with digital display ads. However, if we focus upon attention, and I'm sure you're aware of this with the attention economy, and that's been grasped by lots of yourselves, other, like Lumen, for example, Amplified Intelligence mentioned here, the Attention Council, and also some of the media agency groups as well. Dentsu, Havas are doing some good work, and if I've offended anybody else by not mentioning them, I apologize for that. But there is hope if we focus upon attention as a means of advertising effectiveness. This is taken from the Attention Council, and what this graph shows is that actually, if you can focus upon achieving attention, the rewards are great. The y-axis is the amount of recall over days. So if we plot standard banner ads, which are struggling to achieve more than 2.5, 3 seconds, which is the perceived understanding of effective advertising, it's going to be, the recall is going to be about 5 days if you're lucky. For us, with our mCanvas solution, we find the sweet spot is about 8 to 10 seconds to achieve high attention. Why? Because you demonstrated earlier that your devices are personal to you. We've got to make sure we disrupt on that very personal device, that we don't overdo it. So this is the sweet spot. So if you gain attention of 8 seconds, your ad can be recorded up to 30 days. Just imagine how much you would save if you were achieving ad recall of 30 days or more with your display advertising. And it is possible. But we just don't want to talk about attention. Ideally, we want to take it a little bit step further and say, what if you were to achieve high engagement, highly interactive, highly immersive advertising experiences when activating on mobiles? This piece of research was taken from Magna, part of IPG Group, 2 years ago. They did testing between just straightforward video activations or interactive video interactions. And what it demonstrates is that for the audiences that actually interacted with the ads, 75% of them, 3/4 of them, were more likely to engage with that brand as a consequence of having an interactive experience with that ad. Now, that call to action could be numerous. That engagement with the brand could be numerous. But at least it's engaging with the brand as a consequence of that ad. So there is hope. I'm just going to play you a quick show reel of examples of interactive ads on mobiles, high engagement, immersive ad experiences that work. So some big brands that we work with in activating highly immersive, highly engaging ads, round about that sweet spot, about 8 to 10 seconds, which create high recall and interaction and calls to engagement afterwards. And if you're using brand lift studies as another measure of success, in our experience, cumulatively across interactive ads, is that we achieve way above market norms when it comes to those measures of ad effectiveness, particularly even with purchase intent. And remember, the Magnum research said that if you can achieve interaction, you can stimulate high intent, high demand. It is possible with these ads. So our success has been built upon the work that we do in APAC. Most of those examples you saw on that show reel are from how we work with brands in that particular region. And what's significant about that region, and I was talking to Supriya earlier, is that it's a mobile-first, digital native region. I was quite startled by this. This was taken from a panel that Meta did recently. 60% of the world's 18 to 24-year-olds live in APAC. And I was speaking to someone earlier who was saying, I think it was actually Supriya as well, saying when it came to their devices that they use to consume media, they skipped a device. They skipped laptops. They skipped desktops and went straight to mobile. So this is a digital savvy. For us to be effective in that market where it is mobile first, is testimony to the work that we do. But not only that, big brands know, if they're global in reach, and you will know this, the learnings that you can take from your marketing activations in APAC will be really effective for extending those learnings and applying them to success in the other markets that you work in around the world. So there's a glimpse into the future. It's happening now for you. You can grasp that glimpse into the future and apply it to what you're doing now in the UK and in other Western markets. So we started with Mike. Let's leave with Mike. Mike basically says here is that standard ads don't cut it anymore. He uses the ugly word. I'm not happy with that. But ads that aren't creative, that don't achieve attention, don't achieve interaction, just won't cut it in the future. So if creative agencies are here, I apologize for that. More pressure on you. But hey, let's bring back creative. Let's bring it back. And also, because I'm a Guardian fan. I still have a subscription, believe it or not, but I don't have the ball sheet anymore, which is great. James says here, it's a waste of money. How can we afford to waste on ineffective advertising? Let's not do that anymore, not least the fact that it's not great for the planet. So, if you'd like to talk to us about how you can learn from what's happening in APAC with highly interactive, highly effective, highly immersive advertising experiences, and potentially how to save the world through being sustainable with highly effective advertising, we'd love to talk to you. Thank you for your attention.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Adam. Does anyone have any questions for Adam before we move on to the next session? No? Cool.